Thanksgiving has come and gone, and we're now in December, which is the month where the real contenders start to turn up. And week 14 has the potential to be probably the most important week of the 2025 NFL season.
I think heading into week 14, we got some exciting games, and none bigger really than Thursday night football. To be honest, I think Cowboys Lions for me is a real standout game on this week's slate. So really excited to get into it.
All three of those teams currently occupy a playoff spot. Who would have thought that 5 weeks ago?
Yeah, I feel like I subconsciously wrote the Texans off when CJ Stroud went down.
I told you. I remember saying on the podcast, I was like, I got this defense. When we're doing the All-Pro thing, I was like, watch out for the Texans to get a run. That's what I'm saying.
I remember, and you're completely right. I mean, that defense is freakish. We saw it on Sunday, right? Like they the way they could just bottle teams up, and they bottled the Colts up. Kept Jonathan Taylor inside 100 yards.
Both trenches, they've just really struggled the last couple of weeks, especially. Like Aiden Hutchinson has just 1.5 sacks in his last 4 games. In the last 3 games, they've allowed 130 rushing yards a game. They are tied for last in the league in the last 3 games with just 0.7 sacks per game. So they're not really generating much pressure at all. And then across the season, the offensive line has the 6th worst pressure per dropout percentage.
Are the Patriots even that good? Like the schedule's been pretty easy. I mean, obviously, they can only beat what's in front of them, but what a wild season, man.
Hello, everyone. Cecil Martin here.
Hey, this is Hunter Henry. What's up, man? This is Max Crosby, part of Raider Nation.
Hey, this is Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman.
Hey, it's Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks.
Hey, this is Jerry Judy, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, and you're listening to the 14-Yard NFL Podcast.
Week 13 was the week of upsets, as no fewer than 7 favourites failed to defeat across a bumper 4 days of football. Thanksgiving has come and gone, and we're now in December, which is the month where the real contenders start to turn up. And week 14 has the potential to be probably the most important week of the 2025 NFL season. You're listening to the 14 Yards NFL podcast. This is the main show from the 14 Yards Podcast Network. I'm today's host, Sam Moores, and this is your home for British commentary on the NFL. Our network ranges from team-specific podcasts to the main show, this one to written content on our website. There's also Go for 2 podcasts, and then this, as I said, our weekly deep dive on everything happening across the league. If you enjoy the show, please make sure to subscribe on your preferred platform and leave us a review. It really helps us reach more NFL fans both in the UK and across the pond, obviously in Europe and everything as well. Join me to talk about a week 14 that will see 6 games between teams that are sitting at least 500 or above. Is Andrew Gamble, senior US sports writer for the Mirror and the Express and the author of The Special Relationship, The History of American Football in the United Kingdom. Welcome back to the podcast, mate. So much is on the line this week for those teams in and around the playoffs. What a taste of it you've got in store for us.
Yeah, it's an important time of year. Thanks for having me back on the show. It's been what a crazy season it's been. I feel like it's so up and down. I feel like we've got to a point in the year where you should be around this time kind of figuring out who are the real contenders in the league. But the NFL feels so wide open this year. This kind of feels like Roger Goodell's kind of dream season, right? Like it kind of feels anyone can kind of sneak into the playoffs and go on a run because like which teams are good. I feel like we're still kind of figuring that out. I think we got the Patriots. I mean, at 10-2 after Monday Night Football, we had a 10 game winning run, which is kind of crazy. But like, or 11-2 even. But like, are the Patriots even that good? Like the schedule's been pretty easy. I mean, obviously they can only beat what's in front of them. But what a wild season, man! And it's as we're getting down the stretch, it kind of makes it even more exciting. We could see any of these teams sneak in. We've got someone like the Chiefs, for example, kind of struggling to stay afloat. The Eagles look like they could be on the precipice of another kind of 2023 akin kind of collapse. Yeah, it's awesome to see, and I think heading into week 14, we got some exciting games, and none bigger really than Thursday night football. To be honest, I think Cowboys Lions for me is a real standout game on this week's slate. So really excited to get into it.
Yes, absolutely. I think just sort of elevating your point now, I'm pretty sure there are 0 clinching scenarios in week 14, which is I don't think I've ever seen before. That's how close the league, or at least how top heavy and then bottom heavy the league has been so far this year. And again, it is really, really entertaining to watch. So as you said, it is Roger Goodell's dream. As for what's in store for you this week, Andrew and I will begin the podcast by assessing the aftermath of a seismic week 13, because so much happened last week and so much changed. And we're going to look ahead to 14, starting off with that huge Thursday night football game that you alluded to there between the Lions and the Cowboys, both of whom are on the outside looking in of the NFC playoff picture. And then, as always, we'll finish the podcast by picking the rest of the week 14 slate against the spread. Okay, let's begin the podcast by looking back at week 13. Of course, every team played last week and quite a few days have passed since then, so we're not going to mention every game, but there are certainly some major talking points from last week. And as I predicted, the 4 Thanksgiving and Black Friday games were all stellar and some of the best games of the season so far. They're brilliant. And obviously, Cowboys Chiefs was the most viewed regular season game of all time by quite some margin as well, as predicted. Crazy enough, all 4 underdogs from those games came away with the victory, which was crazy. And then that started in Detroit, where the Lions needed a win to move back into the NFC playoff picture ahead of Sunday's games. The task of making the 3rd straight postseason was made a lot tougher after they lost to a tremendous performance by the Green Bay Packers. Following that game, the Cowboys obviously made it 2 wins over the 2 teams from last Super Bowl in just 5 days, while beating the Chiefs to keep their slim playoff hopes alive. That loss for the Chiefs was brutal for their playoff hopes. With a win, the Chiefs could have seen their playoff likelihood reach as high as 80%, but instead their chance of making it is now at just 37%. So a huge swing in the other direction for the Chiefs by losing that game. And then obviously the Thanksgiving action concluded in Baltimore, where the Ravens got in their own way, turning the ball over 5 times and falling into defeat against the Bengals in Joe Burrow's return. And then the first ever game streamed exclusively on Amazon Prime for free worldwide was a banger as well. The Chicago Bears coming away from Philadelphia with a dominant win with nearly 40 minutes of possession in that game. We'll talk more about the Lions and Cowboys later on in the podcast. So we'll talk about some of the other teams here before taking a look at Sunday's games. And let's start with those Bears, Andrew, because after results went their way on Sunday, the Bears are now the number 1 seed in the NFC after winning 9 of the last 10 games. And you mentioned it, the Patriots. The Bears had the number 2 easiest schedule so far this year behind the Patriots. A lot was made about that easy schedule. They didn't have a win over the 14 teams that are in the playoff spots or currently are still in the playoff spots. Like very much like New England. In fact, New England had the win with Buffalo at least. The Bears had nothing, but they put out a statement, didn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you go and you beat the reigning Super Bowl champions in their own backyard, I think that's definitely a statement. I think when everyone started dreaming of what the Bears could be, when they picked Caleb Williams last year, and then obviously that unfolded the way it did, and then when they got in Ben Johnson, kind of had this renewed optimism that we've spoken about in this pod before. They've almost built this team. I think when people were kind of envisioning what they were going to see, how Caleb was going to be slinging the ball, all these kind of crazy highlight plays, and we get that, and they sprinkle some of them in. But I think what's really encouraging is and really underrated actually about Ben Johnson's systems is how much they run the ball. And that's like a young quarterback's best friend, right? And you see it with all the best coaches, and it's a really underrated aspect. I think you see it with Kyle Shanahan, you see it with Sean McVay before, especially with Jared Goff. Obviously now with Matt Stafford, it's a bit different. But even then, they still lean on the run game. So Ben Johnson's kind of taken that approach, and you see them giving it. DeAndre Swift and Carmen Ungar, they both got a lot of carries on Black Friday, and that paid dividends. They kind of ran all over the Eagles, who have a pretty strong defense, and they couldn't really do anything against that. So, and then that makes Caleb's job so much easier, right? And so it makes which is kind of crazy then when you look at the Bears in totality and how they're doing, in the number 1 seed in the NFC. They're Caleb isn't even he's not being particularly accurate. I don't know what his stats were on Sunday. I think he threw less than 50% against the Eagles. So he doesn't need to be accurate. And that's the kind of craziest thing is they built this kind of running offense like we saw with Ben Johnson in Detroit, obviously with maybe 2 shinier, better toys, you might say, in Gibbs and Montgomery. But he's kind of built the same thing in Chicago, and then that defense is making plays and getting takeaways as well, and that's a winning formula, no matter how you look at it. I think they handed the ball off over 40 times against the Eagles. And I think we'll just see more of that. And I think the Bears are really. I don't know. Again, like I kind of said at the start, I don't know how good any of these teams are in the league. But the Bears, like on any given day, they've got they've got the play callers. They've clearly got a defense that makes plays. Dennis Allen's a good defensive coordinator as well. We've seen coordinators all the time kind of struggle to make that step up to head coach, or maybe they can't deal with necessarily all the other things that come with being a head coach. But Dennis Allen's a great coordinator, and we've seen that again in Chicago. And then, they absolutely made a statement. I don't know what's going on with Philadelphia. I don't think anyone truly can put their finger on it. I think the offensive line's struggling, the secondary's struggling. It's all a bit all over the place. And Saquon looks a bit of a shell of himself, which is a bit crazy. But look, Chicago can only beat what's in front of them. And like I said, to start this, beating the Super Bowl champions on the road is always a huge win. So. Yeah, I think Chicago are looking kind of scary coming down the stretch, which is exciting for fans who've never ever seen a 4,000-yard passer, and I'm not sure they will this year. But at least their team's winning.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at how they're playing as well, they're running the football well as you said. The offensive line has not only stayed healthy, but like it's also playing really well as well. That offensive line is one of the best in the league, and obviously put loads of money on it. You expect it to be one of the best in the league, and it really has lived up the potential. And again, they're playing defense. They're creating turnovers. Like this is how teams in the playoffs play. So should the Bears get there, because again they might not get there even though they're on the 1 seed because it's that tight in the NFC. Should the Bears get there, they're going to be hard to play in the playoffs because of that. And the Eagles are like the direct opposite of that. They can't run the football well. They can't even sustain a drive well, to be honest with you. It was booing from minute one. The first punt in that game, the Eagles fans are booing, and it got louder and louder and louder throughout the game. And you mentioned it there. I agree with you. It is like it does start to feel like they're sort of heading for the same fate of 2 years ago. I think they started 11-1 or whatever, and then they fell, and obviously lost to Tampa Bay in the first game of the playoffs. We could be looking for something similar here with Philadelphia, I think, because it's not looking pretty at the moment. And then
and we've seen the Cowboys kind of going on a tear, like they're kind of running
exactly.
the table.
Dallas could really win this division now.
Absolutely, it's still in play, which is
crazy. And then before we go on to the games from last Sunday, I'm just curious what you make of the Chiefs at the moment. As I said earlier, just a 37% chance of making the playoffs. The Kansas City Chiefs and Andy Reid, like crazy saying that, isn't it?
It is crazy. I think there'll be. You look at the let's say you strictly look at the box score, right? Like Patrick Mahomes is playing well. He's moving the ball around nicely. I don't know. It's a weird time. I think for Kansas City, I think they are almost the microcosm of the entire league in terms of we don't know what to expect this year. I don't think anyone had the Chiefs at 6-6 heading into week 14. As you say, 37% chance of making playoffs. I think. What do I make of the Chiefs this year? I think I've said on this podcast before, I refuse to write off Patrick Mahomes in general. I've done it before, and it was very foolish of me. So I've been scorned in that regard. But I think it's too difficult to write the Chiefs off. Yeah, I think it would still be silly to, because I think they've still got winners on that team. Whether they're coming to the end of that cycle, because obviously they've done this incredible run for 5 years. It probably seems like there's a few teams where you could say they're coming to the end of their kind of eras. Not to make a Taylor Swift pun, that was completely accidental, and I hate myself for doing it. But it's we got like Mike Tomlin, for example. Like that really feels like it's the end in Pittsburgh, or at least it's coming to an end there. It kind of feels like the same here. Not necessarily maybe with the structure in terms of Andy Reid and Mahomes and stuff like that. They'll obviously stay in place, I'd imagine. But I imagine they'll get a refresh of the roster more generally from these guys.
Well, it's like New England. Well, obviously. Dynasty, they kept reinventing themselves.
Exactly.
They were an offensive team, then they were a defensive team, then they had their running back. They kept reinventing themselves, and again, the Chiefs they've had to reinvent themselves twice. We're looking probably for the third or fourth iteration of the Chiefs now. But and people expect them to be every year. New England weren't in the Super Bowl every year. They did get to to quite a few, but only about half of the time they watched the playoffs, they actually got to the Super Bowl. And Kansas City has been very good at winning in the playoffs, even better so than New England. Nothing we've ever seen before. But again, it comes to an end. They will lose games eventually. Obviously, they lost to the Bengals a couple of years ago, and they're in the championship game. And other than that, like there will be more losses for the Chiefs in the playoffs for sure. And then there are two games with massive playoff implications in Sunday's early window. We'll start with the one in the AFC South because suddenly that division has been blown wide open after the Texans beat the Colts. It looked done and dusted just before the halfway point of the season because the Colts were sitting at 7-1 and were in front by quite some margin. But since then, the Colts have lost 3 of their past 4 games, and both the Texans and Jags have gone 4-1 in that period. So now you've got the Jags at 8-4 and leading the division based on conference record. The Colts in second, also at 8-4, and then you've got the Texans at 7-5. All 3 of those teams currently occupy a playoff spot. Who'd have thought that 5 weeks ago?
Yeah, I feel like I subconsciously wrote the Texans off when CJ Stroud went down.
I told you. I remember saying on the podcast, I was like, I got this defense is when we're doing the All-Pro team. I was like, watch out for the Texans to get a run. That's what I'm saying.
I remember. And you're completely right. I mean, that defense is freakish. We saw it on Sunday, right? Like they the way they could just bottle teams up, and they bottled the Colts up. Kept Jonathan Taylor inside 100 yards. Like he's had his obviously kind of MVP caliber season at times this year, and you kind of saw him get somewhat bottled down. And it's just crazy, man. They're just leaning on this amazing defense, and I think Houston now, I think are really emerging as the kind of the team to beat in that division. I mean, they beat the Colts, right? Like beat the Colts on the road, I'm pretty sure, right? So that's a crazy result that's kind of turned on its head. And yeah, with the Jags in there, kind of crazy the AFC South come out of nowhere to have this. We're in the scenario where it wouldn't be kind of off the table that all 3 of them make the playoffs, which is a wild scenario. I would have loved to see what the betting odds would have been for that at the start of the year. But yeah, amazing. I think amazing for Houston. I mean, they've got some really, really talented players on both sides of the ball. But that defense is just phenomenal. I think like Will Anderson and Daniil Collins it's fantastic. Fantastic to watch.
Right now, if you were to pick a team, one of those 3 to win in the division, who would you pick?
I would have to weigh up the schedule if I was going to do it properly. I mean, going just based off pure like momentum and stuff now, I think I got Houston. And I think that defense makes it so hard to play against. Like, I feel like that, and especially they've done it time and time again where that defense has kind of performed well against in-form offenses as well. And they've got the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football this week, which is obviously a huge game as well. So we'll kind of see how they fare there. But I think my money would kind of be on Houston now. They're only 1 game back. I think Indianapolis have some tough games as well down the stretch. So I'll go with Houston if I had to pick right now. Yeah.
So the Colts and Jags have got to play each other twice. Obviously starting with this week, and then I think it's week 18. The Colts plays the Texans. So again, it could come down to that game. Again, I'd probably go for Houston as well. I feel like I said every week, but defense is just special, and it gets better and better every game, like it did last year as well. Like last year down the stretch, it was unplayable, and it's getting to that point now. And if they do beat the Chiefs on Sunday, I think it's likely that they will go on and win this division. Now and then finally, there was a huge upset in the NFC as the Rams, who went into Sunday as the number 1 seed in the NFC, lost an epic shootout with the Carolina Panthers. A great game, this. 4th down, deep shot by Bryce Young to Taylor Edmonton, ended up going for a 43-yard touchdown that would win the game. And that was Young's 11th game-winning drive in his career. He's the youngest QB in NFL history to reach that mark, which is just crazy. But again, he's also
the most since 2023. He's an absolute demon in the 4th quarter.
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy. And again, if we could get he's shown that he can put a team on his back. If you just get the consistency there with Bryce Young, I thought there is a player there. I think many people consider the Rams as the best team in football. Did anything change for you in that regard after this game, or are you still really high on them despite losing as 10.5-point favourites on the road?
Yeah, I think what hurts them is the spread, right? Like that makes the loss feel heavier than kind of it was or is necessarily. Does it change in my mind what the Rams are? I don't think so. No, I think they are still very. I think they're still very good. I think think it just says a lot about the current state of the NFL. This is a league where anyone can win on any given Sunday. And it's kind of been such a topsy-turvy season for everyone across the board that I don't think you can be surprised that the Rams will have a banana skin. Everyone will have one this season, apparently. So, no, I don't think it changes my perception of the Rams. If anything, it also cements my position on the Panthers, which they're kind of like Two-Face from Batman at this stage, where you flip a coin and it's like they decide that they're going to be terrible or they decide that they're going to be, an NFC title contender. And it's just like, there's no in between. it's insane.
The amount of turnovers they created on the Monday night before, and yet their offense could not do anything. And then literally 6 days later, they go and score 31 on the Rams, which is one of the best defenses in the NFL, way better than the Niners defense right now. And you're like, what? It's like, but I think I agree with you. And I think what it does show as well is it shows that it's really, this year more than ever, it feels a lot harder for these West Coast teams to come over and play in the early window on the road. I think that we're seeing that. Obviously, we saw with the Chargers coming in and getting completely blown out by the Jags a couple of weeks ago. Similar thing. I think it's just shown that the time difference in the NFL, especially when you're playing at like 10 a.m. body clock time, is huge. And then crazy there. And obviously, the reason why I left off the Cowboys and Lions was that they play each other tomorrow night, or probably tonight as you guys are listening to this now. And we'll get into previewing that game now. Simply put, this game is massive. It really is. If the Detroit Lions lose this game, their chance of making the playoffs go down to a very low, like 11 or 12-ish%. The Lions in the playoffs, 11 or 12% if they lose this game, which is, according to The Athletic, which is crazy. Obviously, if they win it, the percentage is much, much more than that. But this is the Lions simply cannot lose this if they want to be a playoff team. And it's crazy saying that about a team that is 7-5. It's not like this team, is at 500 or anything like that. This team is 2 games over 500. And if they lose this game, they're pretty much out of it in terms of the playoffs. That's just crazy. But the NFC is that loaded this year that a team that could probably have 11 wins can still miss out at 11 wins, which is just unheard of. I'm sure if you had told Lions fans at the start of this season that they'd be 2 games above 500 with just 1 game against a playoff team remaining on their schedule, they would have thought, they cruise into the playoffs. But because of the state of the NFC right now, that's not really the case. They have to win their next 2 games, especially if they want to have any chance in the playoffs. Like I said, the truth is that what is normally the case in the playoffs, so 10 wins, maybe even getting 9 wins, that's far from reality this year. And what we've, the Lions' record is kind of almost deceiving in a way, because what we've seen in the last couple of weeks of the Lions, they've struggled, scoring just 9 points on Sunday Night Football against the Eagles before needing overtime to beat the 2-win Giants, and then being beaten by the Packers on Thanksgiving, never once holding a lead in that game either. Are you concerned by what you've seen from Detroit in those games?
Yeah, I think you have to be, right. Like I think when you assess kind of how dominant they've been really the last couple of years, and since kind of Dan Campbell and that team broke through, they've really been kind of a juggernaut in the NFC. They certainly were last season, right, when they kind of stormed to number 1 seed, 15 wins. I think you have to be concerned. I think they've been hit a lot by injuries. I mean, we saw that last year, right? Their defense kind of got ripped apart down the stretch. And I think it's kind of happening. It's happening a little bit again. They seem to be really missing the coordinators, right? Obviously, they lost both Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn in the offseason. That looks like it's taking its toll a little bit. It's just interesting. I think the Lions are they're in a difficult spot, and I think it's gonna be tough. I think tomorrow night as well, the Cowboys, because they're in such, or tonight, I guess on the pod, the Cowboys are in such good form that it's gonna be difficult for the Lions, man. I think it's gonna be a really tough game. And Detroit, and they keep getting these injuries really suck. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown going down on Thanksgiving. I think he's going to play against the Cowboys, but he's questionable. Jamison Williams looks great, by the way. That's a real good benefit from this season, or a silver lining, I guess you should say, from this season. But I think for Lions fans, you'd be somewhat concerned, I think, with how everything's looking. I think because you had so much hope, right, a couple of years ago when it really seemed like everything was coming together with all these fun draft picks and all these guys who hadn't been paid yet, and now it looks like it's reaching a point where all these guys are going to get paid and all this stuff, and it's going to they're not hitting on as many draft picks consistently. Yeah, I think they're in a really interesting spot heading into this game.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried for them, which is, I've been telling Lions fans for weeks, sort of, don't worry, no need to panic. But each week I've said that, I felt less and less convinced of what I'm actually saying. And now, because also because of the results elsewhere as well, like eventually you expect some of these teams to drop a game, like you expect the Bears to drop a game. It's just not been the case. The Packers have won those recently, and they're now in a bit of a hole and have two really, really tough games coming up. The Cowboys and then the Rams in LA the week afterwards. We'll talk about Dallas in a minute. I truly believe this Cowboys team can beat anyone in the league because of that offense, and the Lions defense is so banged up and struggling. Like, as you said, this does, the game tomorrow night is going to be really hard for them because of that, because the Cowboys can just outscore you. And again, they play the Rams next week, who again may be the best team in the league. And you have to win one, if not both of those games, to be a playoff team. It's looking like 12 wins is what you need to secure a playoff berth in the NFC, and they've already got the 5 losses, so they really cannot afford to lose at all. Especially to two teams in the round of the playoff picture, in the Cowboys and the Rams. You might be able to win these 2 games, or maybe lose a game further down, but then you've won these 2 games, you have to win probably 1, if not 2, of your next games. And even if you split, it's still a sort of 40% chance of getting the playoffs at that. But the Lions really need to win both of these games. And again, there probably aren't 2 harder teams to beat in the NFL right now than the Rams and the Cowboys. So it is a huge task. I think this team's lucky that it has those superstars that can make game-changing plays, because if you actually look at how the Lions are playing, they're being dominated on both sides of the line of scrimmage, and that is so unlike this Dan Campbell Detroit team. But they are being handled, and again, they're lucky they have these, like Jahmyr Gibbs in a couple of really good games, and like Jahmyr Gibbs probably single-handedly won in that game against the Giants, which is just crazy saying that, but if they lost that game, they would have been screwed. Both trenches, they've just really struggled the last couple of weeks, especially. Like Aiden Hutchinson has just 1.5 sacks in his last 4 games. In the last 3 games, they've allowed 130 rushing yards a game. They are tied for last in the league in the last 3 games with just 0.7 sacks per game. So they're not really generating much pressure at all. And then across the season, the offensive line has the 6th worst pressure per dropout percentage, behind some offensive lines that are known to be terribly bad, like the Chargers, the Titans, the Jets, the Vikings, the Browns. And only Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert have taken more QB hits than Jared Goff this season. And Penei Sewell is questionable heading into this game, having not practiced on Tuesday. They've already ruled out Graham Glasgow. And then 2 more offensive linemen, Taylor Decker and Tate Rutledge, are also questionable. So it probably won't happen, but they could theoretically be out with about 4 starters on their offensive line in this game. Admittedly, a couple probably will play, but and then as you mentioned, Amon-Ra St. Brown is a game time decision as it sounds, with that sprained ankle that he suffered against the Packers last week as well. I mean, what a terrible time to have all these players banged up, right?
Oh, 100%. And especially when it's like, when that's the bulk of, or spine of their identity, right? It's this physical team that dominates the run game. It doesn't matter how good a talent you are. We've seen it with the Eagles this season. It doesn't matter how good a talent you are at running back, like Jahmyr Gibbs, for example. If the offensive line is struggling, or and can't make the right plays or make the right blocks against the in the trenches, these guys they don't have the space to operate. That's just how football works, right? So it's obviously it's a brutal time to be having that, and it's particularly brutal to then be coming up against the Cowboys, who Jerry Jones is fun to laugh at with some of the decisions he makes, but that Micah Parsons trade, I mean, obviously crazy to trade someone like Micah Parsons necessarily, but you're getting Kenny Clark, and now you trade for Quinnen Williams, right? Like that defense is looking a lot better since these moves they made at the deadline. So I think to come up against the Cowboys, who are looking pretty strong up front, and having that banged up offensive line is really, really not ideal for the Lions. Like, I look, can they still win tomorrow? Of course they can. You know, they're a talent. They've got talented players. But yeah, it's a tough time to be coming up against a team that's really in the ascendancy, like the Cowboys, and the way that they're doing it as well. Like you said, with this explosive offense, but then also this really dominant, surprisingly dominant defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, as for Dallas, the path is simple: win out, and they have a 98% chance of making the playoffs and a 52% chance of winning the division. They cannot afford another loss. If they lose this game, they only have a 41% chance of making the postseason, even if they win out from there and go 10-6-1. Imagine going 10-6-1 and having a 41% chance of getting the playoffs. Again, I keep saying that's how loaded the NFC is this year. They look pretty much done heading into that bye week in week 10. They're 4-5-1. They just got embarrassed on Monday Night Football. But those defensive trades at the deadline, obviously for Quinn Williams and Logan Wilson as well, to a sort of smaller extent, have massively panned out. And this team is playing for their former teammate Marshall Nealand as well. Clearly, it's really sort of revitalised the spirit in the locker room. Add this to the offense. When you add that sort of revitalised defense to this offense, which leads the NFL in total offense, ranks second in scoring offense, and has a run game and protects the quarterback well. If Dallas's defense keeps up this growth, can you see many teams beating this Cowboys team?
I think they're certainly a real threat in that, which is kind of, again, this all just comes back. This is just the theme of anyone can be anyone this year. It's kind of crazy to predict, and you almost want to be hot when you hit the playoffs. I think I was saying to someone the other day, it really wouldn't surprise me if the Bills went into the season as one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl, favorites to come out of the AFC. It really wouldn't surprise me if they still did, right? As long as you just get hot down the stretch, the playoffs are so wide open. I'm not looking at the playoffs being like this team is gonna roll this conference. Anyone can really win. You can persuade me really into thinking that
the Bills are 8-4, and we still don't know if they're going to be a playoff team or not because
exactly.
of the amount of teams are in and around that record.
No, it's insane. It's insane. So I think using that kind of same logic, I guess, I think the Cowboys are a real threat. It's all about being the form team. I mean, it's like that every year to an extent, but I think this year is particularly because of the playing field being particularly even. And the Cowboys they kind of had that stuttering start, and they, with their defense, they didn't know what the identity was. I think they really shored that up at the deadline, like you said. And I think Brian Schottenheimer was laughed at as a hire, widely mocked, but that offense was good under him when he was the OC, and it's thriving again this year. I mean, they're going to have to pay George Pickens because he's playing like a top 10 at minimum wide receiver. So you're looking at that offense and you're thinking, Javonte Williams has given them really good production as well, which they haven't had, I don't know, since Tony Pollard's season a couple of years ago. So I think they've been
looking for running back for a while.
Exactly. So I think it's an exciting time for Dallas, really. I don't know necessarily if they'll run the table, but I think they're going to be a really threatening team to come up against in December. And I think if they make the playoffs, if they make the playoffs based on where they were, they'll be on some crazy winning run. And I don't think you don't want to be the team to face them. Say that.
I mean, say they win this game, as I said, they've got a much better chance of getting into the playoffs, especially because if you look at their schedule after this game, they got the Vikings at home. Again, don't know who's going to play quarterback in that game. Probably will be Jim McCarthy, but again, that offense is just non-existent right now. You got the Chargers again, 4th and 5th offensive tackles. This team's really struggling. Then you got Washington and the Giants, who again, that's a pretty easy last 4 games. If on paper, obviously, division games, anyone's game. Like Washington, especially they've actually played really well the last couple of games. Washington could go out and beat Dallas, for example, and maybe Jameis is back after Jackson Dart's got another concussion and he goes wins that game in week 18 for the Giants. But those are all winnable games. And then, as I said, you win this game, you win those, 98% chance of being a playoff team. Even if they fall short, I don't think many people would have predicted Dallas to have a winning record or anything. Pre-season when Michael Parsons was traded and everything. Most people expected this Cowboys team to be sort of 5, 6, 7, 8 win team. Just
I
under
think
500.
4 to 7 wins is
Yeah.
what I was widely seeing. I think I predicted 7 wins. So they look good for that.
And again, that's why I agree with you that I mean Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones obviously is his son as well. They're really good at identifying talent. Their draft record is really good. Which again, for two people who haven't really grown up around the football, well, that's crazy how good they are at drafting. And you could have got more for Micah Parsons, but with what you've got for Micah Parsons, you've revitalised this team. They do deserve some praise. And again, Schottenheimer as well, excellent first year for him as head coach. And I think Dallas. I mean, again, it is a tough ask winning 5 games, and even then, it's not certain you're going to get a playoff spot at 11-6-1 or whatever. At 12.
Yeah.
It's not certain you're going to get a playoff spot around around there. 11-5-1, whatever. 12-5-1. It's not. So 11-5-1. It's not certain at all, which is crazy. But you'd like to think if they win this game, they've got a chance of doing that, which is crazy. All right, let's go on to predicting this game now. The Lions are 3.5-point favourites in this game. Which way are you going here?
I like Dallas, man. I like Dallas. I think they are the kind of the form team of the NFL. Well, maybe outside New England at the moment, but they got to see that in there. MVP Drake May shouts. You're lucky you've got me on their bye week, but it's no. Look, I think the Cowboys are they're one of the form teams of the NFL. I think it really just feels like they found their groove. They found who they are this season. Especially on defense. I think Dak deserves a lot of credit. If they make the playoffs, look, we can talk about it. About Dak and all that kind of stuff. But I think right now, I think like all the things that we've said and all the things we talked about so far, I have to swing Cowboys on that one. I just think things are falling apart at the wrong time for Detroit. It just feels like one injury too many. The offensive line being banged up, and that's a really important part of the way that they play. So. Yeah, I'll go Dallas for that one.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Dallas to come within the 3 points as well. I think it'll be a close game. I mean, Detroit might win. I think it probably would maybe lean their way to win the game. But again, I'm not confident enough that they're going to do it by more than a field goal. So yeah, I'm going to go for Dallas too. I think it'll be a really close game. Give me Dallas here. I think about 80% of the bets for the spread this week have been Dallas's way. So the majority of people agree with us.
Unsurprising, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to finish the podcast by predicting the remaining games of the week against the spread. Last week I was put under a lot of pressure after Ollie Darcy reduced the gap between the guests and I this season to just 3 games. So I needed a huge week, and that's exactly what happened. I ended up with my best week of the entire season, going 11-5. To go 95 and 96 on the season, whilst Charlie Grace went 8-8, meaning that guests are now back to 6 games back on myself at 89 and 103. So restored that 6-game advantage, which is good. And last time you came on the podcast, Andrew, we went 5-9. Time before we went 6-8. We actually we both matched record both times we've done it this season. We've both got.
I was going to say the last 2 times I've been on it, I feel like the week has then been absolutely mental on the Sunday. Is crazy times. But yeah, we rise again.
I'm about to say I mean, if you beat me this week, it's certainly still doable for the guests to beat me this season. We'll start with the early slate, of course. The first game sees the Falcons host the Seahawks. The Seahawks are 7.5-point favourites going into Atlanta. I mean, this is an interesting one because Sam Darnold has struggled under pressure at the last. Well, actually, what teams are doing with Sam Darnold is they're making him hold on to the ball longer, and that's really troubling him. It's what the Lions did to him in Week 18 last year. It's what the Rams did to him in the playoffs the week afterwards. And again, it's what those teams, the Rams and the Vikings, have done in the last couple. The Vikings, the Rams have done in the last couple of weeks. Obviously, the Vikings rather than the Lions this time, but the Vikings last week the Rams week before, and even before that. There's a bit of a tendency now. It's a bit of a worry with how the Seahawks offense is operating now, because teams are really replicating that game plan from last year in the playoffs. It wasn't pretty at all for Seattle on offense last week, but luckily they had Max Brosmer playing against them, and that offense couldn't do anything, because I honestly think that maybe with JJ McCarthy or Carson Wentz, the Vikings might have even won that game, with which is crazy saying it. So this is a huge test for the Falcons defense, which is again one of the best pass defenses in the league. There's 2 young pass rushers. Yeah, interesting one. Seattle 7.5-point favorites here, because obviously they're a 9-win team against a 4-win team, but it could be interesting, couldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think the Seahawks defense is pretty good. And they make plays like we saw last week. A few of them were tossed right into their hands, but I think the Seahawks defense is a really impressive kind of unit this year. They really do make plays, but like you said, I mean, I think the Falcons defense has been, like, in recent history, not been very good at getting to the quarterback. But like you said, like, they've got these 2 kind of new toys this year, and they certainly look like they're more of a threat in that end. So I really think it could definitely be a threat. 7.5 points. See, when you said it, I kind of immediately thought that to go Seattle, but man, I feel scorned from the last couple of times I've been on here. I feel like I have to rethink my instinct a little bit. I think Atlanta, they're a weird one, right? Because again, like Kirk Cousins, you just don't really know what you're going to get. And they just lost to the Jets. Defense is still good. I'll say I think Seahawks win. I think he'll be inside 7.5 though. I don't know if they'll like necessarily destroy the Falcons as maybe some might think.
Yeah, I'm going to join you there. I mean, obviously, I sort of hinted at it when I was speaking earlier, but yeah, I'm going to join you there. I'm starting to get a little bit worried about Sam Darnold because we're seeing the same thing multiple weeks in a row now as we did last week as well. Okay, huge game in the AFC North next. The 6-6 Ravens host the 6-6 Steelers. Obviously, the winner of this game will go into the lead in the AFC North. This game is available to stream on Sky Sports Plus. As well as DAZN. The Ravens are 6.5-point favorites in this one, coming off that loss on Thanksgiving night to the Bengals, and then the Steelers. They're coming off an ugly loss of their own, obviously losing to the Bills last week. Both teams looking for a get-right game. Again, this is just huge because I think it's going to be a close race for the AFC North title. Baltimore 6.5-point favorites.
I'm pretty amazed that they're 6.5-point favorites, to be honest. I thought that they'd be favored because I think I would pick Baltimore to win, but 6.5 points. I mean, I know the Steelers are falling off a little bit, but Baltimore just got spanked by the Bengals. Look, I like the Steelers to cover that, but I think I like Ravens to win. I think that's gonna be a really close game. I think it's gonna be, or not. I think it'll be maybe not fun game.
AFC North game. You like all AFC North games. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want Lamar to get right because I like the Ravens when they're in their best form, but he's really struggled since coming back from injury. He kind of looks like they've almost rushed him back, which is a bit of a concern. But look, I think they were 1-5, right? But at some point, so I think the fact that they're back at 6-6 and they're in this scenario, I think is promising. I like them to win, but I think it'll be tighter than 6.5.
I'm gonna go for the Ravens to cover. Actually, again that's bold, but I basically Pittsburgh's defense terrible at guys like run after the catch or tackling in the open field. And if you look at the playmakers that the Ravens have, you've got Derrick Henry, who's incredibly hard to bring down. You've got Zay Flowers, who again, one of those players great after the catch, and then you've got the tight ends as well who get it. So I just feel like with how this variation of the Steelers defense is playing, I feel like it's a real bad mismatch for them. We saw that with the Bills last week. They could not bring down James Cook, except the record in the Russian record for an opponent in that stadium. It was a really bad day for the Steelers in that aspect. And again, similarly built team as with the Bengals. They really struggled to cope the Bengals offense for the same reasons. So yeah, give me Baltimore here. I'm pretty confident on that one as well. This Steelers defense is bad. So they moved on from Darius Slay in the week as well. Just sort of showing there's something wrong with that team on defense. And again, as you mentioned, it kind of does feel like the end of the Mike Tomlin era. Sticking with obviously talking about the Bills a minute ago, the Bills host the Bengals. This game is the main game on Sky this week. I mean, it's hardly a surprise you've got Josh Allen and Joe Burrow going head to head. Just a shame that they are 4 games apart in terms of record. Obviously, the 8-4 Bills host the 4-8 Bengals. The Bengals actually have like a sort of 5-6% chance of getting in the playoffs because of the division they're in. So the Bengals have to win out, but it's not crazy. The Bengals are still alive. They need to win this game, and they look. Their offense was for a team that won by multiple scores. Their offense wasn't actually that impressive last week, but the defense creating those turnovers. That defense has been terrible all year, and then again creating 5 turnovers against the Ravens in that spot. A bit of a turning point for the Bengals defense. The Bills in this one 5.5-point favorites.
Bills 5.5-point favorites. Oh man, that's interesting. I think the Bills. I think the Bengals they impressed me. They impressed me on Thanksgiving. I think the defense played surprisingly well. Man, crazy. I really, you can see me struggling because I really, really want to pick. I really want to believe that Joe Burrow is going to pull it off. Yeah, screw it. Yeah, I'll go Bengals will cover the 5.5 I think it's going to be interesting. I think the Bills are clearly really good, but they're also they're pretty inconsistent, right? Like they lost the Falcons. That was a while ago.
Lost the Dolphins.
Lost the Dolphins. That was more recent. I think they're an interesting team. I think the Bengals are going to really be up for it because, like you said, they somehow still have a route to the playoffs because of the division. The worst part about the Bengals weekend this week, or just the run down the stretch, is that the Ravens and Steelers play each other twice. Like they need those teams to lose, and then they're going to be winning at least 2 games from those games. So that sucks from a Bengals perspective.
What you want is for them to split. That's what you want. Really.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely. You need that because you're not getting in as a wild card, I don't think, unless something crazy happens. But yeah, look, I think the Bengals will play it close. I think Joe Burrow is really good, and he showed that in the second half. Sounding good. Yeah, that's the top tier analysis we're looking for. Joe Burrow is really good, but we saw that in the second half on Thanksgiving. Like he was a bit rusty first half, kind of getting into it, but like some of the darts he was throwing late, the touchdown to Yoshi Vass was fantastic. So I think the Bengals will be competitive in this game. Go on.
Oh, okay, I'm going for Buffalo then. I'll go the other way. They should win this game by more than a touchdown, on paper. So I'm gonna do Buffalo. But again, that's gonna be a real fun one to watch in the early window. The next one's really interesting as well. You've got Cam Ward against Shador Sanders. He's been confirmed starting again for the Browns. Obviously, 2 rookie quarterbacks going head to head. The 3-9 Browns against the 1-11 Titans, which is just crazy. The Browns are 6.5-point favorites in this game. It's probably, you have to look at this. It's probably the most the Browns have been favored by, in all season. Surely. There's no way the Browns have been favored by almost a touchdown. The rest of this. Yeah. Again, part of the reason why is the form that Myles Garrett's in, and then the Titans are one of the worst offensive lines in the league. They're probably 6.5-point favorites for a reason, right? Even with Shador Sanders as a quarterback.
Yeah. We're laughing at this game going into it. I think this is one of the games I'm low-key most excited for this weekend. I just think it's so fun, from a narrative perspective in terms of the quarterbacks, right? Like I know that's so easy and so kind of media-driven, but it is fun kind of seeing Shador kind of go out and do his thing. And I think given the circus and everything around him and obviously the draft story, falling to the 5th, getting his chances obviously makes it is quite fun to watch. Going up against number 1 pick, who's had a bit of a difficult year, a difficult situation. Man, 6.5 point favorites. I like the Browns to cover that. To be honest, I think that defense. I think I brought that defense in one of my fantasy leagues. I think that defense is they're very strong and they're feasting. The Browns aren't 3-9 because of the defense, but let's put it that way, right? Like I think that's pretty strong unit, and I think they'll feast on the Titans as Titans pretty struggling offense. So yeah, I'll go for the cover there. I think Shador will get one over his the guy who went number 1.
Yeah, okay.
Child falling out the wall.
Nice. I'll go for Cleveland as well. Purely just because of that defense. It's 1 in the 3 games. It'll win in the 4th by a touchdown. It's my logic there. Okay, the huge game in the AFC South I was alluded to earlier. The 8-4 Jags host the 8-4 Colts. This game is available to watch free on the UK. It's on Channel 5 this week, which is awesome. The Colts are 1.5 point favourites going to Jacksonville, which is the interesting thing. They're huge game. This again, the 1.5 points shows the bookies think they're pretty much inseparable, these two teams.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I mean, this is like I kind of talked about kind of earlier. This division is so hard to pick. Oh man, Colts or Jags. The Jags to me just feel like the weakest of the 3 in that AFC South kind of race. So I think in terms of a pick 'em, I'll go for the Colts to bounce back from that Texans loss. I think the Colts just have enough in the tank. It feels more like it's their year. I don't know how the Jags 8-4. That's kind of just happened.
Especially with the way Trevor Lawrence is playing. It's like Trevor Lawrence is not playing well.
Yeah.
He's not playing well. They've got 8 wins.
Yeah. I think that's what it is, right? It's weirdly deceptive. I mean, their defense is just really good, and they play they're playing at a high level, which we've definitely talked about before on the pod with Devin Lloyd and stuff. So I think in terms of just like a straight pick, I'll go for the Colts on that one. I would have been like this the last 2 times I've been on the pod, and then the Jags will end up winning by like 30 points. So I'll go with the Colts, but I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah, I'll go for the Colts as well. The only worrying thing is the fact that the Jags pass rush has really caused problems in games. Now, they've had their injuries the last couple of weeks and stuff as well on that unit. But if they're healthy, they could cause a problem for the Colts. I still think they're a better team, and again, they're actually 2 teams that are built quite similarly. They both rely on their run game quite a lot. They both rely on their tight end quite a lot. Like you could even say the number 1 weapon in this Jags offense is Brenton Strange over Brian Thompson, which is would have been crazy to say going into the season. But the 2 teams that are very similar. They were going to want to run the ball. I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm going for Daniel Jones over Trevor Lawrence. Who would have thought that a couple of years ago? Yeah. But Jones is playing it to a better standard than Lawrence is in a pretty similar situation right now. Give me the Colts here. Interesting game. The next one, the Vikings host the Commanders. No idea who starts a quarterback for either team. It could be Jane Daniels against JJ McCarthy. It could be Marcus Mariota against Max Crosby. We don't know. It does sound like both Daniels and McCarthy could return for this one. Obviously, another week of McCarthy coming out of the concussion protocol, and then the Commanders didn't put Jane Daniels on IR for a reason, and probably thought like he can play in this game. Obviously, a couple of weeks now post injury. The Vikings are 2.5 point favourites in this one, and it's in Minnesota.
Interesting, 2.5 point favourites. Yeah, I mean, it's just. I think 2.5 points. I think I'll have to go Washington, man. I think if Jaden Daniels is back, I feel more confident picking him than. I really want I would really like the Vikings to be good. I think they're a really great organization. I think they do football. If they play football the right way, I think they're really, I've worked with some of the people there in that organization. They're a really good franchise, really well run team. But damn, man, you're gonna have to give it. I need to see more out of the quarterback before I'm picking it. Yeah, Jaden Daniels, obviously he's coming off this pretty gross injury from a few weeks ago, but he was the NFC rookie. He was not NFC. He was the NFL rookie of the year last year. He was the offensive rookie of the year last year for a reason. So I think I feel much more comfortable going. If it's down to a field goal, pick 'em basically. I'll take the Commanders. I think on that.
Yeah, I'm going to join you. Washington's offense is actually playing quite well. Well, they scored this.
Shout out Mariota, man. That was a great game the other day.
But they're running the football really well. Chris Rodriguez is running the football really well. Obviously, they've got the receivers there. The offensive line is a problem. But you've got the skill position players there. And again, they put 26 points on the Broncos, who are one of the best defenses in the NFL on Sunday night. And their defense in recent weeks, since Dan Quinn has started calling plays, has got better as well. They were really good in the Madrid game and then coming out the bye on Sunday night. I thought they did pretty well with Bo Nix as well. So I'm going to go for Washington as well. I just feel like that they've still got a pretty decent team. It's an old team, which is a problem for the sort of future of Washington. But they've still got a team there. Minnesota, I love that defense, but the offense is obviously the quarterback's playing terrible. The offensive line's also one of the worst in the league as well, which is the amount of money spent on it is a concern. I just feel like Washington slightly have the better momentum right now, so I'm going to go for them. But again, to come for the 2 points, but either team could win it. And again, we don't know who's starting a quarterback, so really predicting this game right now is just throwing it miles away and hoping something sticks. Really, to be honest with you. Okay, really interesting game in the AFC East. Now the Jets host the Dolphins. The Jets playing in their Gotham City jerseys in this game. The Dolphins playing for a playoff spot. Really, they actually still are, again, like the Bengals, they still are alive. The next two games are the Jets and the Steelers. Win those two games, which again are winnable games for the Dolphins. They are suddenly at 500, which again is just crazy saying that. The Dolphins are favoured in this game, but I've got here that they're 13.5-point favourites, which is not true. I forgot to change it, so I'll just check now what the Dolphins are actually.
13.5 is wild.
Yeah, that's not the case. The Dolphins are favoured by 2.5 points, not 13.5. 2.5 points. But again, Miami have started to find a groove now. Devon Achan's playing really, really well. The defense has started playing really well as well. Obviously, we saw that sort of game-seeding pick 2 from Minka Fitzpatrick last week. They've also got the likes of Austin Jackson and Darren Waller back in recent weeks as well. So this offense team is pretty full strength now. And again, they've won, I think, 3 of the last 4, if not 4 of the last 5. They've won quite a few games. Obviously, they lost to the Ravens in there, but then they beat the Bills and have won these games against easy teams. Another theoretical easy team here in the Jets, but the Jets they're not bad. Like this Jets team in recent weeks.
I was saying, this is a weird game. It feels like it's like two of the hilarious form teams of the league, right? Like kind of going head to head.
Oh look, the game. There's a Monday Night Football game. They played on Monday Night Football in week 4 or 5, and these teams looked horrendous at that point. Obviously, the Dolphins have been blown out by the Colts. They lost quite funnily to New England, then they lost to the Bills on Thursday Night Football. These two teams were winless when they played on Monday Night Football at the start of the first couple of weeks of the season. Nobody would have thought they'd probably have 8 wins between them now, and the Dolphins would still be somehow alive, because they were the laughing stock of the league going into that Monday Night Football game. And now, the Jets have found a bit of a groove. The Dolphins have found a little bit of a groove. Now the reports are probably sort of siding that Mike McDaniel's going to stay in the job because of how well he's done turn around his team. So much has changed since their last meeting, and the Jets can run the ball really. Like Breece Hall is having a career year, so the Dolphins are favoured going to New York for a reason, but this could be an interesting one. Dolphins over by 2.5 points here.
Yeah, man. Look, I remember that Monday Night Football game. That was the Justin Fields play game, right? Where he does that crazy play action, or not even a play action. It was a fumbled snap or something, or failed handoff that ends up spinning out and doing his crazy 48-yard touchdown run or something stupid. And I remember
that was against Tyreek's leg snapped as well.
Yes, Same game. Yeah. But I remember on that Justin Fields play, the Dan Orlovsky on commentary was like, that's an unbelievable play call right there. And I just remember thinking like, that is that is not the commentary that I would be providing in that scenario. And that was my main takeaway from that game. 2.5 point favorite. I think I'll go Miami, man. I think the Jets are going to be. I think it'll be close. I think the Jets will put up a good fight. And power to them. I think the Jets have done really well the last few weeks. Finally got that first win for Aaron Glenn. Still kind of ticking those wins off, and they're playing competitive games, which is good to see. I think Miami will just have enough. I think, like you said, Devon Achane I think is kind of underrated running back in the league. Tua just has errors in him, but it can be very productive, right? Like we've seen that before with Mike McDaniel, especially when he has.
The thing with Tua is he looks as immobile as he ever has.
Yeah,
he looks like he's playing injured, or which he's not. And that's the sort of trouble there. But they're locked into him for another year, so that's an interesting thing. The other thing here is obviously it's quite cold in New York. Dolphins in cold weather have struggled in recent years. That is the other thing here. I'm still going to go for Miami, but I do feel like the Jets could get something out of this game. I just like the Dolphins are actually probably playing for something. Like they still have a chance of making the postseason with their run. Obviously, the Jets have it's a very, very slim chance, but the Jets have got to play for that. Yeah, exactly. That's ultimately what it is. So yeah, I'm going to go for Miami, but I'm not confident about that at all. And then the final game of the early window, another division game. It sees the 7-5 Bucs host the 2-10 Saints. The Bucs obviously looking for a bit of momentum. Obviously, just not past the Cardinals before that. Didn't play very well. Sounds like it's probably too early for Micah Evans. He might be maybe a next week job, but he has been activated to practice, which is good for them because their offense is sort of broken in recent weeks. Bucs 8.5 point favorites with the Panthers. They're only, if the Bucs lose this game, the Bucs and the Panthers are suddenly going to be on the same record. Yeah, which is crazy. Must win game for the Bucs then. 8.5 point favorites.
Yeah, again, another team that I have a real big soft spot for. I think the Bucs are like, I feel quite bad for the Bucs, man. I feel like their season's really been defined by injuries, and I think we have a team that happens to every year, and it just happens to be the Tampa Bay's year this year. They looked so good through the first couple of weeks of the season, looked like they were going to really be like NFC contenders, and they kind of just got kind of cruelly taken away from them just by the health thing. They kind of lost the health battle. Like you say, again, kind of maybe might have Evans back, man. But the Panthers have crept into that fight, so it is going to be interesting. 8.5 points against Saints. I feel like the Bucs have been playing people quite close recently. I want to say. I think.
Arizona with 3 wins, and there's 3 points between them.
Yeah, exactly.
Sunday, so
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking of. Man, they got destroyed by the Rams, didn't they? And then. Yeah, they've really struggled the last few weeks. They did. I mean, the last time these two teams played, though, it was a 20-point game. Bucs were probably a little bit healthier, though. 8.5. I'll go Tampa Bay, man. I think the Saints are tough to watch. I think the Saints are. I think the Saints are a difficult team. I mean, they did all right against Miami, I guess. Play that. We're relatively competitive in that game. So
Tyler Shock's had probably 2 really good games as well. There have been some bad games in there, but he's had 2 good games.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting one.
You never know. Yeah, I feel like it's one of 2 teams are going to show up for the Saints. And it's either going to be a very competitive game or it's not.
They might get Alvin Kamara back in this game as well. He obviously has missed the last couple.
You've just reminded me that I have Alvin Kamara in my fantasy. Let's go.
There you go.
Let's go Saints cover then. There we go. Come on.
Do you know what? I'm going to join you. I think the Bucs will win, but whether the Bucs win by 9 or not is another story. So yeah, I'm going to join you there. Okay, and then 3 games in the late window, 2 terrible ones, and obviously the big one after that. At Lambeau Field, I will start with the 2 games out west. The 10-2 Broncos head to face the 2-10 Raiders. The Broncos are 7.5 point favourites, and this one is available to stream on Sky Sports Plus. The Raiders are in disarray. The Broncos have they're on this big win streak and again found a way to win on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, I think the Broncos have got to be one of the defining teams of this season. Of are they actually any good? Their defense is obviously very good. The offense, I still have pretty large question marks over. But I will give them credit like that. We've seen some poor games from them, but they've won. But like that, I think that Thursday Night Football game a few weeks ago was
again. The rematch of this game, the first game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So that was particularly bad. I'll give them credit because actually I went into Sunday Night Football thinking that was going to be a really tough game to watch. Broncos against Marcus Mariota's Commanders, but that was a bit of a thriller. I quite enjoyed that. So I'll give them credit there. So what was the point? Sorry for this one.
7.5 Denver in Vegas.
Yeah, I like Denver to cover that. The Raiders, man, I think even if they play well, I think they still lose by a touchdown.
I said last week they may be the worst team in the league. They might be worse than the Titans, which is
the Geno Smith trade like looked good. I think at the time, or it felt like a decent move. No, you're getting to the point where you'd rather see Aiden O'Connell out there, which is kind of nuts.
Yeah, well, now he's back because now he's obviously
exactly.
He's it's fascinating because Geno in Seattle, obviously, he didn't have a great offensive line, but he had the weapons. Here he doesn't have a great offensive line. He also doesn't have the weapons. Jacoby Myers going, obviously he wanted to go, but then when it's so bad that Tyler Lockett has come back in and been a big part of this offense. Again, on his second team of the season.
Let the man chill.
Yeah. Obviously, back with his mates Pete and Gino, and exactly.
They got the band back together. Well, and what's kind of crazy though is Gino had some I can't remember exactly what it was, annoyingly, but it was Geno Smith had some ridiculous winning record in domes, in indoor stadiums, and they've just been so bad. I think Denver. As much as I have question marks over Denver's legitimacy, as a genuine contender, I think I don't have question marks over the Raiders as a struggling team. So I'll take Denver to cover that.
Okay, I'm gonna go for the same as well. Just a good team against one of the worst teams in the league. You'd like to think they're going to cover that 7.5 point spread. Another division game. This one in the NFC West. The 3-9 Cardinals host the 9-3 Rams. The Rams are 8.5 point favorites going into this one. I think the bookies learned their lesson of road spreads. Obviously, 2 points less against a team that has 3 less wins than the team that played last week. Division game, but the Rams should get this one done, shouldn't they?
Oh, I think they'll win. It's just over whether they cover or not. I think the Cardinals can be surprisingly good. I imagine it'll be. Is it Kyler? Is it Kyler back? Is it?
No, it's Jacoby Brissett again.
Brissett. Oh yeah, of course, because Kyler's on. Yeah, Kyler's on IR. So I think man, I like Brissett. he's a pretty serviceable. He's a pretty serviceable backup. He slings it. I think I'll go Rams. What was it, 8.5?
8.5. Yeah.
Damn. What was the last time these two teams played? Have they played this season? I don't think they have.
It might be their first one.
It is. Yeah. It is. Yeah. Cardinals, man. I think the Rams will come out of this feeling pretty pumped up after the last week, losing to Carolina, kind of losing that number 1 seed. I think they'll win. I think they'll cover as well.
I'm gonna go for the Rams too. Sorry, I was just checking.
No,
just a second, sorry there. I'm gonna go for the Rams at 2. I think they're the best team in the league, and again, Arizona have got the defense to make things tasty. Somehow that with Jacoby Brissett and Michael Wilson, they're playing well on offense. Obviously, Marvin Harrison Jr. is back now, but and again with down to third and fourth running back, it is weird how they're still kept alive. But I think they're one of the most poorly coached teams in the NFL, and they're probably going to be up against one of the best coached teams in the NFL. And I think that'll be enough for the Rams to cover the 8.5 point spread. And then the big one, the Bears head to Lambeau Field to play the Packers. The Packers, interestingly, 6.5 point favourites in this one. Which is huge again for two Sort of a 9-win team against an 8-win team. This one's live on Sky Sports. This is the main game on Sky Sports this week. It's also on 5 Action. Also, Sky are live in Green Bay for this one as well, which is quite cool. 6.5-point favourites for Green Bay.
Yeah, nuts. Pretty fun that these two teams play each other twice in 3 weeks as well.
Yeah.
Two really big, important games in terms of the future of the division and in terms of who's gonna take it. At Lambeau, 6.5-point favorites. I like the Packers to win, but I don't think they'll cover. I think it'll be close. I think that'll be it. I think the Packers defense, I think, is really come alive recently. Micah Parsons in particular is really he's kind of been doing it all year, but he was doing it a bit kind of like under the surface a little bit. Now I think they've really started to find
He's settled in now. He's properly settled in now.
Yeah. So I think I'll take Green Bay to take that one. It genuinely though, it wouldn't surprise me if the Bears won. It's crazy. So yeah.
So are you taking the Bears within the spread, or are you taking the Packers to cover the 6.5-point spread?
I will take Bears to Packers to within 6.5. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for the same. I think Chicago could win this game, but I think they're gonna make it competitive. Most games between these two teams are really competitive. I can't see Green Bay just running away with this one. And again, the way that this Bears team are built, again, it's it's built to play the Bears and the Lions. It's like the Packers. This Packers team was specifically built to beat the Lions because the Lions had handed it to them over the last couple of years. Well, since that game where they knocked the Packers out of the playoffs. In Rodgers' last game. Since then, the Packers have just played terribly against the Lions until this season, where obviously they swept them. But yeah, I think Chicago being built for a similar reason. I think they're going to play this team close. So again, I think they're going to come within those 6 points. And then 2 brilliant primetime games this week. We'll start with Sunday Night Football. We spoke about it earlier. The Chiefs host the Texans. The Chiefs are favoured in this one by 3.5 points, despite the Texans having one more win than them. This one's going to be fun, isn't it?
Oh yeah, no. This is a good game to watch. I don't know if it's going to be particularly high scoring, but I think it'll be an interesting game to watch. Like it'll be two teams really like kind of knowing that their seasons are kind of on the line. Kind of the perfect kind of late season game, really. Man, 3.5 points is killer because in my mind I'm thinking the Chiefs are winning this by a field goal. So I'm thinking that the Texans cover, but I always hate that small gap. But I think it's gonna be I think it'll be a great game. Texans defense. This is coming at odds with my general mantra of how I live life, which is don't upset Patrick Mahomes. So I'll go with I think the Chiefs. I think the Texans will. I don't think the Chiefs cover though. I think it's going to be inside that gap. I think it's going to be really tight. That Texas defense is legit, like we've spoken about many times.
Yeah, I really want to pick the Texans. In fact, again, Patrick Mahomes, I believe he is the most hit quarterback in the NFL so far this year. Again, I'm like you. Normally I say don't pick against the Chiefs, but I just think it's a terrible matchup for them. So I'm going to pick Houston to come within that 3 points. That
Mahomes wrath is going to come after you. I'm telling you, it happens.
Yeah, what should happen? But no, again, if the Chiefs lose that, they're basically done at 6-7. You can't come back from that at all. And then Monday Night Football battle between 2, 8, and 4 teams. The Chargers host the Eagles. Both of these teams, again, really bad momentum coming into this game.
Yeah.
The Chargers are banged up as hell. The Eagles have nothing on offense. Obviously, Justin Herbert hurt his hand on the game against the Raiders on Sunday as well. So Trey Lance has taken QB1 snaps early this week in practice. But John Harbaugh says he's optimistic that Herbert will play in this game. The Chargers also could get back Amari and Hampton in this game as well, which would be huge for them going into it. The Eagles are still favourites in this game by 2.5 points. Probably, because SoFi Stadium is going to be filled full of Eagles fans because that's just what happens in Chargers' home games.
Yeah.
But also because the Chargers are so banged up. This is a sneaky huge game for both teams because both these teams could easily miss the playoffs with the way they're going.
Oh, definitely. It's crazy that they're both coming into it at 8-4, and we're kind of sitting here like, who's going to lose? But they both feel like they should lose, which is nuts. I mean, they're two really talented teams, but like you say, like Eagles just can't get it going on offense. Chargers are just so banged up. I think it's a fun game to watch. I think it's a really good Monday night football kind of choice because again, it kind of feels like, I mean, obviously it's not this because they're 2-8-4 teams, but again, it kind of feels like with the way the momentum's going, they need that win, right, to keep the season kind of alive. Obviously that's hyperbolic given the records, but it kind of feels that way. And we've hit December now, so we're in that final stretch of the season. 2.5 points. I like the Eagles to cover and win. I think.
Yeah, me too.
I think they'll find a little bit of their groove on offense, a bit more this week. I think pressure on. Man, I think. I just want to see Jalen Hurts sling the ball, man. Like we know he can. We know he can.
I've got AJ Brown in fantasy, so I hope so.
Well, and he had a good game. He had a good game on Friday, but the offense just feels so off. But I think they'll find a bit more of a groove, and I think they'll win in LA on Monday night.
Yeah, me too. And then the 4 teams on a bye this week, the final week with bye weeks, the Patriots, the Niners, the Panthers, and the Giants. Right, that's going to do it for today's episode. Angie, thanks for joining me once again. Always a pleasure having you on the pod, mate. Before we wrap up, do you want to let listeners know where they can find more of your work?
Yeah, absolutely. It's themirror.com. It's kind of where you go. It's the Mirror US. If you find that, kind of check out our NFL stuff. There's a lot of our coverage there, and you can kind of see my stuff, my exclusives and other features that I write will be on X. I hate saying X, on Twitter at Andrew_Gamble. But yeah, no, thank you for having me back. It's always a pleasure, and hopefully I do a bit better at these pick'ems because I'm pretty bad. But we'll get back there.
Yeah, well, I've certainly gone against you a couple of times as well, so there could be a big swing because of that if I get it horribly wrong. Certainly. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider leaving us a quick rating or review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you enjoyed listening, of course, it really helps more NFL fans here in the UK and across the globe discover the podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell as well, so you never miss any of our weekly coverage. That's it. That's week 14 previewed. The next one I'll see you will probably be for a week 15 recap. I start a new job this week, so it's going to be quite hectic for me next week or so. So I'll be coming in to recap week 15 next time on the podcast and look ahead to week 16. That feels crazy we're saying that now. We're fully into December. I've been Sam Moores. Has been the 14 Yards NFL podcast, and I hope you enjoy watching the games this Sunday, and of course the game between the Cowboys and Lions, which I'm really looking forward to on Thursday night. Goodbye for now.